Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Anita Talks History and Genealogy. I'm so pleased that you all could join me today on it's the new year, everyone, and we are just stuck in this doom loop, stuck with politicians and corporate interests that are controlling our lives, that are controlling the way we live, the quality of our lives, and allowing our own people, citizens of these United States, to be taken out by Gestapos that the regime of DJT have put in our streets. As always, please hit that like and share button. Please subscribe, and if you can, get a paid subscription. That helps to keep the channel going. Your donations to my Cash App, which is $Wheels920, helps keep this channel floating. Also, purchasing my merch, purchasing my merchandise that I have helps. And I want to show you this book. This book here is a book that I wrote. It's called A Nation of Flaws, Just Us in the Homeland. And it is available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and through me if you want a signed copy. And the reason that I'm showing you that book, I am the author of 7 books. I am a historian, I am a genealogy researcher, an author. I'm a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. Yes, I have been here, and nothing surprises me. But what is going on in our country today horrifies me. And what I want to tell you, what I want to share with you as we honor the life of Renee Nicole Good, who was murdered by ICE. I want to share with you that since January the 16th, 2011, I have mourned my own grandson who was killed by police January the 16th, 2011. And I want to share that with you because after he was killed, he was shot and killed. At first, when he was killed, it seemed like he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And then we come to find out that no, he had been lured down to that park not here, because I don't live in that city, in East Oakland, California, to this park by someone he thought was a friend. And in fact, there were 2 women who asked him to take them to that park that night. He was 19 years old. He had broke up with that woman. She wasn't even a woman, She was like, I believe 17 or 18. She was young, but she was being trafficked by police, by the Oakland Police Department. Come to find out. And my grandson, his name is Kerry Baxter Jr. He was 19 years old. He did not have a gun with him. He had no weapon. He was just there because they said, take us to the park. And had it not been for the fact that he thought they're harmless, this is someone I was dating, it's over. And he thought that's what he was going to do. And when he got there, this is from one of the young women that lured him to the park. They asked him to wait, and he's standing by the car waiting. He has no gun. He's not there. He didn't force them to go to the park. And these men show up, two men. One of them, the older woman that was with this young girl, the older of the two women. I don't think she was, much older. She's probably 19 or 20. But this is what the eyewitness told us, my family. She got on the phone, made a call, and two men dressed in black came and attacked my grandson, started beating him, and chased him around the corner. This is San Antonio Park in East Oakland, California. Around the corner, there's a church, San Antonio Church. And he ran around the corner, and they were shooting at him. They shot him. When he got in front of that church, San Antonio Church, he was running for his life. And one of the shots hit him, center mass. That's a police shot. When people are running from the police, they're hit center mass. He didn't have a weapon. He was no threat to anybody. And they killed him. They let him. He lay on the ground. They didn't call an ambulance. He bled out. The priest from the church came and wanted to give him last rites. And these police, the Oakland police, refused him, would not allow him to go. In fact, it was him. There was 3 churches. There was 2 black pastors. They all wanted to go and give my grandson last rites. And the Oakland police told them no, they could not. They were letting my grandson bleed out, didn't call medics, ambulance, nothing. And he laid, and this was on a Sunday, everyone, Sunday. They let him die on the street, and they left his body there. 4 or 5 hours before they called his mother and told her. And his mother called me screaming and wailing. I got that call around 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't ever want to get that call. And she said they killed him. And this is important because later her story would change. She said they. And when somebody says they, you think, oh, she knows who did it. And the reason that that was so important was because the neighbors said that this person was chasing him. It was a black person, all dressed in black, was shooting at him. And there was shells all over the ground. But yet when I've talked to Oakland police, they told me that it was a drive-by shooter. And I said, the neighbors said there were shells all over the ground and there was a man chasing him. And then the neighbor said there was a big black van parked alongside of his body for 4 or 5 hours. As he lay there, left his body on the ground. And so this is the 15th year of his murder. And his case went cold immediately and has remained cold. And I'm gonna tell you what is important about what was going on in that park. It turns out that the Oakland police were pimping girls. They were supposed to be protecting the girls, but there was a hotel where these girls were picking up men and going into it was in a hotel, it was a motel that was on East 14th Street. There was a police substation on East 14th Street, right around the corner from the church and the park. And the reason that I can say that the Oakland police were pimping those girls, because of one girl, Celeste Guap, who came out, like I think it was 2015, and told what was going on, that they had been pimping her since she was like 13 or 14 years old. And there was a big scandal about it. Don't believe me? Look it up. Look it up. And this is what my grandson was caught up in, unbeknownst to him, because it's a ring. It is still going on. Just like with Jeffrey Epstein. You think he's the only one doing that? So my grandson's case has not been solved. But like the people who are in the streets about the young lady, Renee Nicole Good, up in Minnesota, I hit the streets. And I started, I became an activist and learned more than I ever wanted to know about what's really going on in our community. I held a rally in San Francisco in 2012 for Trayvon Martin. And that was, I realized that unless it's a high profile case like Trayvon Martin, Oscar Grant, like some of the other young men and women who have been murdered, Sandra Bland, unless it's a high profile case, it's buried. There are, for every one person in our community that is known about, there are 100 like my grandson who did not get justice and who are still waiting for justice, whose families are still mourning their passing. Yes, so no, I'm not in the streets with that young lady that was killed, Miss Good. I'm not in the streets. I have marched from 2011 up until, I would say, well, I've been, marching about other stuff too, but I had to pull back. I had to, because it was wearing on my health. And I met so many mothers. I met Sandra Bland's mother. I met Oscar Grant's mother. She's a dear friend, a lovely lady. I have met Dion Smith Downs, her son. Let me tell you about James Rivera Jr. See, these are stories that are not being talked about anymore. He was in San Joaquin County, California. James Rivera Jr. was being held at juvenile hall. He was 16 years old, and the night of his birthday, when he would have been turning 17, they claim he escaped from juvenile hall. And I can tell you that it is no easy task to escape from juvenile hall, because of the way they're situated, because of all the guards that are there. How did he escape from juvenile hall? How did he get into a vehicle and take these people on they said the police and sheriffs said he was taking them on a high-speed chase, and he escaped from juvenile hall. And what happened was that car, he was in a vehicle, driving a vehicle, and it ran into when somebody has a overhang, it's not a garage, it's like an overhang. And he ran, and the car ran through the wall of that overhang and into the living room of a family. But the car was stuck. And the police came up on him and shot him. The police and the sheriff's department shot him 38 times. while he was in that car, probably unconscious, dragged him out of the window and dragged his body along the ground. And his mother, Dion Smith Downs, she was called. And they said, it looked like he was trying to, drive home or something. But she was called and she went to where he was and saw them dragging his body on the ground, desecrating his body after they had shot him, murdered him. This is the police and San Joaquin County sheriffs. So we, I was a part of that. There are so many that it's hard to, it's what I don't want to do is start naming, people and then leave other people's names out, and yes, I'm a member of Mothers Against Police Brutality, and the founder of Mothers Against Police Brutality is a friend, and her son, he was killed in Dallas, Texas, and she has been fighting for justice. Colette Flanagan, she has been fighting for justice for her son for, I believe it was 2012 when he was killed. And it is so hard because we want to, remember everybody's names. We don't want to say the names and then someone whose name, was someone whose name was not mentioned. But there are so many that we were thinking about making a quilt and taking it across the United States because so many of our young people were murdered. Their lives were stolen. And we're not trying to leave anyone's story out. Today, I'm bringing it up because I want to, make some points. My book was started out with the history of policing here in these United States. And the reason that I started it out like that was because some of us don't seem to realize that the policing began with the Native American people, with the indigenous people. It began after they colonized. The colonizer came, and then they started bringing more and more boats, taking land and pushing the indigenous people back off the land. Then they formed, they had churches that they brought with them. And those churches had wardens. And those were the first police, the church wardens, like the Episcopalian church, the Anglican churches here. And the reason I'm focusing on them is we know about the Catholic churches. We know what they did. But my people, my ancestors, my indigenous ancestors, my enslaved ancestor who I've traced, she was in South Carolina, the ones that were primarily in Virginia and North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Delaware and all Maryland, my ancestors, they were governed by the Episcopalian and Anglican churches. Those were the first ones to bring ships over here. And they had the church warden going around arresting Native people. And this is why I have people who I'm related to up in Canada, because the ones who could fled to Canada, and they're on what is called the Onondaga Reservation. which is connected to the Mohawks. But the Mohawks were allowing any native person that got up to Canada could go onto that reservation. So it's not only a Mohawk reservation, but we do have Mohawk ancestors. But in colonial times, the church wardens oversaw the carrying out the will of the church. The Catholic Church had their own police carrying out the will of the church, and they probably still do. Okay? So in my book, A Nation of Flaws, Justice in the Homeland, I'm talking about that. I'm writing about that, and that's how I started. And then I also in my book I mentioned that China had taken gone to the UN about the murdering of our people, Black people here in the United States. That is a humanitarian crisis. Why didn't our leaders follow up on that? I believe that was in 2014. So where were the Black leaders? Where were the Black leaders, and why didn't they follow up on that? Why didn't they go to the UN with China about our murdered children? By that time, that was the 3rd year of my grandson's murder. Okay? And the other thing is that we have a lot of missing young women and men. We have a lot of missing children in this country. A lot of missing Native American women. Where are they? Why isn't anyone looking for them? Why isn't it a humanitarian crisis? We're not doing enough. And what I'm saying, and I'm going to say this, I'm not in the streets anymore. Because in the streets, I was marching. I was in New York marching. I marched in, we were in Ferguson. We were marching for Mike Brown Jr. We were marching for so many of these, the high profile cases. And we were in Cleveland, all over the country marching. But here in California, there are a lot of murdered people who either never got justice or their murders are cold cases to this day. One of them, Andy Lopez, he was like 12 years old. He got shot and killed up in Santa Rosa. And we went up there and we marched for him. And his family was attacked by ICE. He was killed by a sheriff deputy. He was walking, carrying an air rifle, just like Tamir Rice. And the sheriff pulled up behind him and started shooting him. Pulled up behind him. He was walking, he had earbuds on, taking the air rifle back to where he had got it from. And the sheriff pulled up in back of him and began firing. That's what happened to Tamir Rice. Andy Lopez's family was immediately set upon by ICE. This was during the Obama era. This was when Obama was president. There were so many cold cases, unsolved cases, and a lot of the people who settled and received payment had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And before we start blaming these parents or these families, we need to stop doing that. And we need to look at the root cause of what's going on here in this country. Trump is just the latest iteration of what has been going on. He's a lot louder and open with the stuff he is doing. He's showing you how wicked the system is. And, so we honor the lives of our loved ones who were murdered by this system, who were killed. And another point that I want to make to everyone is this. A lot of times when they're taking our young people and putting them in prison, like even, the wrongfully convicted, they will go to them, to the person that they're prosecuting. They know they're wrong. They're unlawful, unjustly trying to convict them, and say, "Oh, if you strike a deal with us, you can do, And if you don't strike a deal, they're going to come at you and give you more and more time." I've experienced that. With my son, who was unjustly prosecuted and wrongfully convicted, and he is the father of Kerry Baxter Jr. His name is Kerry Baxter Sr. They wanted him to give them information about something that had happened. And he said, "I'll be a dead man if I become an informant." They wanted him to be an informant. And he told them no. And they said, "You're going to regret it." He's sitting in prison. He's sitting in prison for something he did not do. This is the system. It's a system that some of us keep holding on to the hope that it's going to change, it's going to get better. We did the civil rights movement, we did the march, we had all this, all these people supporting us. It's not going to change. The system began with the murder and exploitation, with genocide against the indigenous people, and it continues. Why did they do it? For the land. Because the indigenous people were willing to share the land, but these people want all of it. They want to covet other people's, whatever other people have, the natural minerals in Africa, the oil in the Middle East. They want China's hardworking people, but they want to be top on the top. They do not want to share. They're like little children. And even little children outgrow that greed, that desire to just have it all. And then, even when they get it all, they're still miserable. And they hate the fact that we, although they have put us through immeasurable suffering, that we still smile, we still believe. They don't like that. And we, as the people who are under this colonial system, which is expanding. They're trying to expand into Venezuela. DJT's talking about going to Greenland. You can't even say they're racist no more. They're going up to, colonize their own people. Greenland, who was a part of NATO. The United States is supposed to be a part of NATO, but yet they have put a madman in charge of the country. He's going after his own people. Okay? So what I want to say about, I'm no longer, marching or protesting, and I want us, those of us who hear and those of us who agree, to hold our peace. That does not mean we're not standing with the protesters who have awakened at the murder, with the murder of that young lady up in Minnesota. We stand with them in spirit. But we're not all in the streets, and we have good reason not to be, because now it's a spiritual battle, and we realize that we have to win that spiritual battle, because what they're doing is trying to break our spirit, trying to make themselves more powerful than Creator, put themselves above the teachings of Yeshua, the one they call Christ. We're holding our peace. We're praying for these families. We're standing with these families. But as soon as we go in the streets, we will be the target. And I believe that the voices that are out there now can shut it down. I believe in them because they're awake. And once you wake up to what's really going on and you unify, there's no force on earth that can beat you. So I'm here this month holding my murdered grandson, my oldest grandson, who was so cute and so funny and just a good guy. He was going through a lot, struggling because they took his father from him when he was 10 years old and wrongfully convicted him. And not only did they wrongfully convict my son, they harassed my grandson and his mother and his brother. They harassed them. They wanted the mother to testify against my son, to lie against my son, and she refused. And they were telling her they were going to take the children and put them in foster care. They were going to take the children out of the house if she didn't do what they wanted her to do. So they were harassing her, went to her job, harassed her, harassing me, had my phones taped, took my computer and wiped out the hard drive. I had all my books that I was writing on my computer, and they wiped out the hard drive, So went around and told my grandson's mother that the reason they couldn't solve his murder was because of me, caused a rift between myself and the mother. And we speak now, but people are powerless when they're, like her. She was trying to raise the children and work after they took my son out of the house, and just in a vulnerable position. So I don't blame her. I blame the system. The system is rotten from the core. Babylon is falling. It's falling not because of me marching or me talking or you marching or all the suffering that they put us through. It's falling under its own weight, under its own lies, under its own atrocities, and what it has done to the world. And I want to say that I haven't, I hold these people, the ones that I know, dear in my heart, the mothers that I met. And the reason that you don't see them as much out, because we're holding our peace. We have decided that being out there in the streets is keeping us away from our spiritual base. It's not bringing justice for our children, because our children who have been murdered, our grandchildren who have been murdered, they can't come back. And so I am, here's one picture with myself, Gwendolyn Carr. She's the mother of Eric Garner and Deion Smith. She's the mother of James Rivera Jr. And this is in my book. And another person who I've been, who I'm really close to, that's in my book, is the mother of Oscar Grant Jr. So what I was doing when I was writing this book is trying to make a point. At the time that I wrote it, I was making a point about how they treated our murdered children after the police murdered them versus how the murderers, the serial killers, the spree killers, and the mass murderers who were white men were treated. After they were arrested, after they were found out, very few of them got the death penalty. Most of those, the mass murderers, if you want to know who they are, all you have to do is look at the documentaries on Netflix and the documentaries that they have. Most of those killers got documentaries. Jeffrey Dahmer, he got a documentary. I think there was this clown face killer. He got a documentary. Happy face killer. He got a documentary. Most of those white males that are going around on spree killing, who are mass murderers, who are serial killers and rapists, they get documentaries. They get studied. So we have our people are always pushed to the back, always disposable in this society, have been since the beginning of the country and continue to be, because these people have no morality. They have put themselves above God. They have become judge, jury, and executioner. And another thing that I want to bring to you is that not only do they think they're judge, jury, and executioner, they think they're the chosen ones. That God chose them to come here and to murder black and brown people on our planet, on our earth. We are the ones whose land holds all the gold and the mineral wealth. They, coming from that cold place in Europe, have none of that. So instead of them trying to work with the indigenous people of the earth, they want to come and steal it and claim it. They want to come and colonize where we are and pretend that God sent them. God had nothing to do with our people being exploited and murdered. Remember this too, Christians. The Romans killed Christ. I know there's a lot of Catholics out there. Do you think I'm making I'm pointing a finger at you? I'm telling the truth. And you all don't really want to know the truth. You want to sit and forget your history. The Romans killed Christ, and the Jews allowed it. Can you see? And these Jews here are walking around, well, they're not really Jews, most of them are Zionists, talking about they're the chosen people. The chosen people don't have to say it. You will know us by our deeds, okay? You will know the chosen people by their deeds. And there's nothing chosen about genocide, subjugation, raping, robbing, pillaging. That is not maybe the gods that they made up, the pagan gods, chose them. But it certainly is not Yeshua's God, the one that Yeshua taught us about and told us that he said that there is one even greater than me. And that's who he was talking about, the Most High God. And so we, that is who we worship and believe in. And so there was and I want to say this before I close, because there were women besides Sandra Bland. This young woman, her name is Megan Hockaday. She's in Oxnard, California, March the 28th, 2015. She was a 26-year-old African-American mother of 3 children and a resident of Oxnard, California. In the early morning hours of March 28, 2015, she was shot and killed by police officer George Garcia. The police were called to check out a reported domestic dispute. She was holding a small kitchen knife, but at no time was a knife pointed at police, who used lethal force within 20 seconds of arriving at the family's apartment. Her fiance and 3 children witnessed the execution of the young mother. Did they ever get justice? No, they didn't get justice. That's why I'm calling out their names. I'm calling out the names of those who did not get justice. The women that you never even heard of. Just like my son, Kerry Jr., my grandson, Kerry Jr. And there's so many here. Whew. That were left out. There is Gregory Johnson Jr. He was a college student at San Jose State University. He was killed November the 22nd, 2008. That was around the time Obama was elected as president, after the presidential elections. He was the first African American. He was elected. He was in he was the head of Sigma Chi fraternity house in San Jose, California. He was a student at San Jose State University and one of the few African American members of Sigma Chi fraternity. They claimed that he hung himself. On November the 20th. This was, he had just called his parents and told them he would see them Thanksgiving, so why would he hang himself? But what was going on was that some of the students, some of the white students, because he was the only black student, all the other black students had moved out because they were being harassed by the white students. And he was in an argument or something with those students, the white male students. And I believe it was because he was dating a white woman, and they didn't like that. But no one has ever been arrested for his murder. Gregory Johnson was found hanging in the basement, right? And he was over 6 feet tall, and the basement was maybe at the most 5'8", In other words, how could he hang himself in a basement where his feet would have touched the ground? But that's what they said. They found him hanging. And they let his case go down as a suicide. And Gregory was a Christian minister, but they let his case go down as a suicide. And there was a march, San Jose, they marched, on behalf of him. So that was a lynching. And then there was like 2 other African American students who were found killed. Another one was found hung, and one of them, they say, committed suicide by jumping off off the garage. This was in San Jose, at San Jose State University. And this has continued to happen whenever we go into spaces that they don't feel we belong in. Our students are harassed, and many and some of them wind up dead, deceased. Cindy Mitchell's brother, Mario Romero. This is up in Vallejo, California. He was sitting in a vehicle with his friend, and the police came up on him, jumped on the hood, and fired into, he was sitting on the driver's seat. They fired and shot him and killed him. Just out of nowhere. He's sitting in front of his house. He was sitting in front of his house. Okay? Mario Romero. And it's just so much, so many of our young people. And I'm doing this in honor of my grandson, that his memory stay alive, that we continue to keep him in our consciousness, because what we want is justice. That's what we want. If we're going to get it one way or another, justice is coming. And please, when you're out there, if you decide to go out there, be very aware of who is around you. Because what I found when I was out there marching and protesting is that we were surrounded by people who were connected to COINTELPRO, or either were informants. They have a lot of them in our community that look like us, that come out and instigate. And you will find yourself in jail, and you'll find yourself on trial, and those people will come out and testify against you. They can come into our community because they are given immunity. They are informants, and they work with the FBI, they work with the police department, they work COINTELPRO, whoever pays them, they're working with them. And their job is to take us out one way or another, to silence us, And that's another reason why I'm telling us, our people, to pull back, to keep your peace, and do not get out there, because soon as we, the American people, but particularly African Americans and indigenous Black and brown people, come out there, they begin sending out informants. They begin sending out people who will get out, who are being paid to cause a disturbance, who are being paid to create a scenario where they can come out and kill us en masse. That's why we're holding our peace, because they're desperate. They know that this system that they set up is failing, and they want to take as many of us as they can out. There will never be a time when Europeans are the majority in the world. Never. And it's not our fault. We did not set it up like that. It is called natural selection. Just like they tried to say natural selection made them smarter and wiser than us. And it's actually natural selection that has decided that certain people should only be 9% of the world. There's a reason why it was set up like that, and we didn't do it. Okay? So they try to kill us off. And it'll never be, because the creator of this universe decided that. And they need to take it up with creator. We didn't decide that. So stop coming after us. You're your own enemy. We're not your enemy. And with that, I will close. This has been a long one, but I just wanted to share, what's going on with me, and to share that I stand in solidarity with Miss Good's family and community, and with our entire community. And also, let's say it like this: that people all over the world are protesting the United States. They're shutting down our embassies. They're protesting in front of our embassies. People all over the world are sick and tired of the regime, of the imperialists, of the corporations that are moving in, polluting their lands, and then moving out. It's not just Africans and indigenous people. Europeans are sick of it. Russians are sick of it. The Chinese are sick of it. They put themselves in this position. And all we do is talk about it. We call them out, and they don't even want to tolerate that in this so-called democracy. So again, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to share. And thank you for joining me. This is Anita Talks History and Genealogy. And have a wonderful, blessed day.